This is an urgent video. My name is Charlie. I'm very good at PIP. I've only lost one claim in 6 years, but something is happening with mandatory reconsiderations. So what happens is you apply for PIP and you do what is called a claim form. You then get an assessment and you get an outcome. If you do not agree with the outcome, you can do what's called a mandatory reconsideration. It's like an appeal. What used to happen is DWP would, or whoever they're paying to do it, right? They would receive the mandatory reconsideration and you would receive a mini assessment to confirm the areas that you were appealing. Then you would get an outcome. In the past few months, there's been no assessment, okay? But people were still being treated fairly. You know, if it was very clear, if there was evidence, because they check everything. Like they obviously check your medical records, they check what you said in the assessment, etc., etc. And we know that a lot of what is written in the assessments is not quite fact-based. Okay, so it was still fair. I felt it was fair. It's now the beginning of May 2024. In March, I had a client come back to me because their mandatory reconsideration was declined, which I was really shocked by, really shocked. So I was so surprised to hear from them. So I thought, okay. So I got out what we worked on and I thought, right, have I fucked it up? Just being honest, be objective. Have I fucked this up? I read the first page and I thought, okay, right. I turned to the second page where there was evidence. No grey area, evidence. And then I turned to the third page and I was like, they can't have read it. They cannot have read it. Because, again, there was no grey area. This was very, very clear, fact-based, from a specialist, evidence. So I linked with my clients, his couple, and I was sort of like, oh, I don't think they've read it. And they knew. They were like, there's no way they've read it. I always wear rose tinted glasses, right? So I always think positive and yeah, no, they've looked at it. But there was no way around it. They did not read it. I don't believe they turned the page, because if they'd have turned the page and read page 2, then they would have known, whoever that person was would have known that they are, hang on a minute, I need to look at this. So that worried me. And obviously I didn't witness the person looking at the mandatory reconsideration. I did not witness them not reading it. But if you knew the details, any of you watching this, if you knew the details, you would sit there and be like, oh, I don't think they read it. That's how clear the evidence is. So I thought, shit, what if they're doing that with others? What if all this rumbling about the changes, the government changes, what if they're just, because there's currently 750,000 people going through the PIP process. Well, that was the last stat I read, right? So what if, to try and clear down, they're simply just saying no, 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 and getting rid of like 50 mandatory reconsiderations in a day, which a lot of people would give up, but that means it's tribunal next. Tribunal is awful. It's extremely expensive for the taxpayer, judge, doctor, disability specialist, clerk, paying for the room, paying for the judge thing, all the admin that goes to it. They are so time consuming. The evidence that gets submitted, it's a nightmare. The whole point of mandatory reconsideration is to get it right. Well, you want to get it right on the claim, but it just doesn't work that way. Since then, I've had another 2 people come back to me and go, Charlie, they said no. And I'm like, how, what is happening? What is happening? Those 2 people are going to tribunal because the evidence is clear. This is what I don't understand. I'm like, what is going on? So I've changed the way that I'm writing mandatory reconsiderations. I'm trying to get on page one. Page one, people take in 10% of written. That's it, 10% of written. So on page one, I am trying to get really blunt facts across, so that whoever it is that is looking will look at that one piece of paper and go, oh, actually, I need to read this. Is my hope. My hope. All we're asking is to be treated fairly. This is scaring me. So please, please brace yourself that I don't think they're following procedure. I just don't. I truly hope I am wrong. I'm really gutted to say I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Not on what I'm seeing. And now with these changes, I think that internally that they're probably thinking, well, it's all going to be changing anyway, so just decline it. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say. I don't know how we get treated fairly. How do we protect ourselves so that the person, the system treats us? I know I keep saying treat us fairly, but that's all we're asking. It's all we're asking. If people's lives truly meet the requirements required for PIP, they're entitled to it. Their lives are shit. Our lives are shit. Like, I like to be positive. My life isn't very good compared to able-bodied. Compared to someone that lives in a third world country, I am so privileged. I am so lucky, and I know it because I used to be a humanitarian worker specialising in Africa. I know it better than most people because I've been there, worked in those environments. I know I'm so lucky. But compared to someone who's able-bodied, my life isn't very good. Pain all the time, fatigue. I'm pretty much am here. Again, I know I'm lucky, but I think it's a reasonable request to be treated fairly. So I'm really sorry that I don't know what to do about this. I'm hoping that by adapting our approach, people are treated fairly. If that happens, I will let you know. If, even with the changes I've made, people are not being treated fairly, I'm going to update you. So I think I'll be probably another month. Depends on how long it's taking DWP to come back to people. But if the past, I don't know how many I've done, come back with zeros, I don't know. Like, I if that happens, then it's pretty much eliminating the whole mandatory reconsideration process, which means that we're left with tribunal, which I hate, and I don't want people to have to go to tribunal. So I think my advice is you've got to get it right at the beginning. You've got to get it right at the claim form or the review or the change of circumstances. And the most important thing you need to be doing is watching the practice video. Because if you do not communicate it clearly during your assessment, which is like an interview on steroids, where it's awful, that's the most important part, the practice sessions, the practice video. Because it doesn't matter how good your form is, if you can't communicate it during your assessment, you're going to lose. That's it. Doesn't matter if you're really sick that day, doesn't matter if your brain fog's really bad that day, doesn't matter if you haven't slept for 40 hours. If you can't communicate it during the assessment, you won't win. We've got to get it right at the beginning. And it's just easier for DWP to get it right at the beginning, isn't it? I'll keep you posted. I'm really, really sorry. I just think the next 12 months are going to be a bit challenging. Well, like, fucking, it's already challenging being sick, isn't it? Like we need more challenges. We'll get through it.